Hello everybody. So I'm watching the Arrowverse for the first time and I've made it to the crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths. So today I'm going to talk about it. Let's go. So before I get into talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, I want to kind of do some housekeeping and say that after this video, I'm going to do a video on Arrow Season 8, but then, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the next 2 seasons of Flash. I think I'm going to watch them, but I don't know if I'm going to make videos about them, or, if I do, they're going to be, a little bit down the line, like it won't be like next week or next few weeks. It'll be a little bit down the line if I do make a video, just because there's a lot of stuff going on in my life right now. I'm going to college soon, so, trying to figure out how I'm going to do this YouTube stuff while in college. So if I do a Flash video, it probably won't be in the near future, but it might happen eventually. But definitely, I'm going to be posting an Arrow Season 8 video within the near future of this video. So, stay tuned for that. But to get into the crossover, I thought that this was a really good crossover. I think that it worked really nicely as this big culmination event that you can tell really changed a lot of the Arrowverse, that the effects of this are going to have effects on the rest of the Arrowverse. The entirety of the Arrowverse has been completely changed because of this, and I think they did a good job with that, with having those stakes and having those effects. Whereas Elseworlds was kind of like the smaller thing, like, yeah, it doesn't really affect too much, it's just kind of this fun scenario of, what if Oliver and Barry switch places and all the fun with that. This, it had that fun stuff, but with more stakes to them, more, universal, multiversal stakes to it, so, I think that was really cool. Really, this crossover had pretty much everything I love from these Arrowverse crossovers. It has the character interactions, characters interacting that we don't normally get to see interact, like seeing Barry and Kara interact, seeing, just the different characters from all the different shows interacting with each other, where in the individual shows, you don't get to see them interact. You only get to see them once a year in these crossovers. Of course, I'm not watching them once a year. I'm doing it all in one chunk. But, for the people watching it when it was coming out, you're only seeing this once a year. You're only seeing these characters get to interact once a year, one crossover a year, and, that's what makes these so cool, is being able to see this, these character interactions that you rarely get to see, get to have these relationships be developed in these crossovers. Of course, the humor, that's always great with these interactions, with these crossovers, Easter eggs, and again, the scope, the stakes. As I said, Elseworlds was a lot smaller. The crossover before that, Crisis on Earth X, that was bigger, but it didn't have a lot of the fun stuff as much. This one combined the two and had way bigger stakes, and also a lot of fun stuff thrown in there, with having Burt Ward as Robin from, the 60s Batman.
Holy crimson skies of death!
You get Tom Welling, who was Clark Kent Superman in the Smallville show. We get Brandon Routh, not just here as Ray Palmer, the Atom, but also as Superman. I wish that we actually got the suit from that, from Superman Returns. I wish that it was the actual suit and not like this weird version where you put black on the symbol. I think that's like that's part of a storyline from the comics that they're kind of doing there, and they're just using, Brandon Routh as this kind of cool Easter egg added to that. But I wish that it was, they really leaned into this is Superman Returns Superman. Like, this is the Clark Kent, the Superman from that movie, instead of, just having it be this cool thing where it's the actor, but it's kind of a different kind of thing. But it was still cool to see Brandon Routh returning, wearing the Superman suit. That was still cool to see. We get Ezra Miller's Flash, the DCEU Flash, which that was cool to see. Him get to interact with Grant Gustin's Barry Allen. That was cool for that one scene. That was cool thing there. It gets me really excited to see like the Flash movie that I guess is supposed to come out in the next few years. The Ezra Miller Flash movie. I think it's supposed to be Flashpoint. I don't know. But it gets me excited to see that when I see him. And we also get 90s Flash, played by John Wesley Shipp, the actor who played Barry's father, and Jay Garrick in the Flash show. He was also Barry Allen in the 90s Flash TV show, and he was also here in Elseworlds, and he returns again here, kind of being like the battery for Anti-Monitor's antimatter world-destroying machine. He's on this treadmill that's giving it power, and so he has to end up sacrificing himself to save everyone else. He really saves our Barry, because originally he was supposed to be the one that dies in Crisis. He was supposed to be the one who sacrifices himself, or I guess it was always supposed to be the 90s Flash, because the Monitor says in Crisis the Flash must die. He says that in the first episode of Flash, season 6, and so I guess they find out that when he said the Flash must die, he was meaning 90s Flash, Earth 90 Flash. That version of Flash is supposed to die here, and so he sacrifices himself. They show a clip from the TV show. I'm not really sure, I'm sure that means something to people who watch the show. I do not, so I'm not really sure what that means, but it's with him and his love interest, Tina, and so that was cool to see. I don't know what it means, but it's cool that like they would add that in there. So yeah, there was a lot of Easter eggs in this. There's probably a lot more that I totally missed, but those are the ones that I was able to point out. And yeah, I thought that's one thing again that makes this crossover specifically fun, is having all of these Easter eggs with having infinite Earths, infinite DC universes, and so with that, you can do this multiverse stuff where you could bring in, other versions of characters that we've seen from other movies and shows, appear here. That's the fun multiverse stuff you can have, and they do that a lot here. So, yeah, I thought that was really fun to have these Easter eggs. Again, probably missed a lot of them, but it was fun to, point out, like, oh, that's from this, oh, he's from that. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. But moving on to Black Lightning, he has an episode here that I guess fits into the crossover. It's kind of like, this episode that's not really, it doesn't really, like, fit with the main story of it, but it's kind of like, it's an episode that's going on parallel to the main story, and at the end of it, it ties in when his Earth gets destroyed, but then he is able to get sent to Earth 1 to be with the rest of the heroes. it ties in that way, but for most of it, it's just parallel to it. You know, it's on another Earth, and so, you know, it's not directly connected to the main storyline that had been going on. And in a certain aspect, it was cool to see, like, this is what Crisis on Infinite Earths looks like to, you know, just on an Earth that isn't involved, you know, on, you know, any Earth besides Earth 1 and Earth 38, you know, besides, you know, the Flash and Arrow Earth and the Supergirl Earth. Besides those two, what does it look like on other Earths? And we see it here. It's, you know, this red sky, and they don't know what's going on, and there's this weird thing where, I guess, Black Lightning's daughter is kind of phasing through different universes, and you're seeing different versions of her. And I don't watch Black Lightning, so it probably meant more if I had watched it, but since I don't, it was kind of like, okay, I don't know what they're really talking about here. What is this thing? I guess she worked with the villain to do something, and Black Lightning's mad at her, or something like that. Probably should have watched Black Lightning before watching this, but, you know, I was able to figure it out, and it was just cool, anyway, to see this story that is kind of outside of the main story, seeing a different perspective of it. But again, as somebody who hasn't seen Black Lightning, it didn't mean a lot to me, and I think I would have enjoyed it better if it was more connected, if it was just, you know, an actual part of the crossover and not like a story that's happening during it. But anyway, it ends up tying in at the end, where Black Lightning's Earth gets destroyed, and I guess the Monitor, or I guess it's Nash Wells or Parai, he was able to send Black Lightning to Earth 1 to be with the rest of the heroes. And that was cool to see him interacting with, you know, Flash, Supergirl, all of them. You know, I think being introduced to this character here, I think he's a pretty good character. I liked him. He doesn't really do a lot in the crossover. He just kind of shows up, you know, uses lightning to, I guess he absorbs the lightning from the antimatter machine to try to stop it, and then that's pretty much all he does. I guess he comes back in the final episode and helps them take down the anti-monitor again, but doesn't really do a lot in this crossover. He just kind of shows up and then dies with everybody else who aren't Paragons. I'll get to the whole thing with Paragons in a second, but, you know, everybody who's not a Paragon dies, and he's not a Paragon, so he dies with them, and he's gone for, you know, an episode and comes back in the finale, not really doing a lot in this crossover, but I still think he was a cool character, and I think, you know, I like being introduced to him here. Moving on to Paragons, these heroes who are the embodiments of certain characteristics, and they are the only ones who can go up against the Anti-Monitor, I guess, or something like that. And of course, it's our main heroes, pretty much. You know, yeah, Flash is a Paragon, Supergirl's a Paragon, Batwoman's a Paragon. Then we go into, you know, some outside of our main hero group. We get Brandon Routh, Superman, is a Paragon. We got this random scientist who's a Paragon. Sarah Lance, one of our main heroes, she's a Paragon. And there's, I think, a few others that Martian Manhunter is Paragon. And it seems like that they could have picked a few more, like they could have made Oliver Paragon. Like, I know, you know, there's the whole thing with him dying and coming back, so his position in this crossover kind of made him not able to be a Paragon. But I felt like, I don't know, there's stuff with Oliver's death that I'm going to get to in a second that I think wasn't really done that well. So I think they could have done things differently, made him a Paragon, but the way it works out, he isn't. But anyway, these Paragons, they have to search through the multiverse to find them, the ones that aren't already part of the team. and they end up being the final group of basically living beings in the multiverse, because the entire multiverse gets destroyed, and they're the only people who end up surviving to go up against the Anti-Monitor. Not in the last episode, in the second to last episode, which that's another thing with the structure of this crossover. I think that the structure of the crossover was kind of weird, where they have the first episode, we're saving Earth 38, and we're going up against this army that the Anti-Monitor has, and they're able to almost successfully save Earth 38. And so then we go into, we have to find the Paragons for 2 episodes. And then we go into, now we have to go, up against the Anti-Monitor at the beginning of time. And then, we were able to restart the universe, but now we have to go up against him again. And it's like, why didn't, it seems like that episode, the 4th part, where they have the big fight and Oliver dies, that should have been the final episode, and we should have just had, a short epilogue to fit in place of the 5th episode. They probably, I think what they should have done was, in the 4th episode, ended as they get, when they get to the, where the battle at the end of that episode takes place, end it there, and then for the first 15 minutes of the final episode have the big battle, and then go into the epilogue of what is this new multiverse, what is this new universe like, and finding out, everybody's on the same Earth now, and all these people are alive now, and, it would have been cooler that way, instead of having this episode where you're exploring what this new world is like, and then you're like, but this is the last episode, so we need some kind of battle in it. I think it would have been better if they just cut the 4th part once, right before that battle, and then had the big battle in the last one, and have the 5th episode be the epilogue of that episode, and shorten it a lot. And also with that final battle, not the final battle, the second to last battle, the one in the 4th episode, it felt a bit anticlimactic. Obviously this is on a TV show budget, and so, they want to do this big thing where they have these demons flying around that they're fighting, but it's it's hard to do that, and it's also hard to figure out how to use everybody's powers correctly, because they just have Flash punching people, and it's really having Flash just punching people, not running around doing something. They need to have figured out something for Barry to do that involved his powers, instead of just standing there punching people. That's not what his power is. His power is super speed, so I think they should have figured out a little something better for him to do. There's also this weird thing where they're saying really stupid things as they're punching, they're die demon, die for Oliver, take that, and it's what is happening here? Why are they just yelling this? It would have been much better to have just made that a silent, fight with just, the score going over it, and just have it in slow motion, and, you're not really hearing, sounds in it, or you're having very, minimal, yelling and some punches and stuff, but there's not, you're not hearing them yell things out, take that, what? So, I thought that was kind of weird, that just weirdly generic, weird things they're just yelling during this battle, that kind of pulled me out of it, and it made it less epic of a thing that should have been so epic as this big moment where they're, saving the universe, they're going after, fighting this army of demons while Oliver is fighting the Anti-Monitor and shooting a light beam out of his eyes, which I'll get to in a second of how crazy that is, they just could have done that a lot better, and it should have taken place in the final episode. That should have been the actual final battle instead of having to tag on another thing in the 5th episode where they have to fight them again and have to fight a giant version of the Anti-Monitor like it's a Power Rangers episode or something.
You have no chance against me.
Whoa, he's a giant!
Yeah, so, again, this could have been done a lot better. I think just the crossover could have been structured a lot better, and this final battle could have been done a lot better here. But anyway, moving on to Batwoman. We get her in this crossover, obviously. And originally, they think that Batman is a Paragon, and so they go looking for this Bruce Wayne Batman on one of the Earths, and they find him, and he's this retired, old, grumpy jerk Batman who got hurt fighting Superman and has to, wear this exoskeleton suit for him to be able to walk. I wish we got to see an actual Batman here. It seems like there's kind of like really pushing this Batwoman thing, and they're like, oh, Batman, he's not here, but I never said Batman was the Paragon. I said when you go there and find the Paragon, and it's you, Batwoman. It's like, okay, but I would have liked to have seen actual Batman, though. Like, that would have been so cool. We get to see multiple versions of Superman, but we don't get a good Batman. Like, I want to get a good Batman here. Like, yeah, Batwoman is cool, but it'd be so cool to see Batman. So, yeah, I wish that we got to have something, or even if, we had in that Batwoman episode, I'm fine with the Paragon ending up being Batwoman. Obviously, she's the main character of her show. Obviously, she's the big character in the Arrowverse. But, you could have it end up being her, but have, a mission go on there where they have, they have to team up with Batman, and we get to see some cool Batman stuff happening. I think they could have at least done that instead of just this old, grumpy, jerk Batman who's retired. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Batman here, or either show us actual Batman or don't tease it at all. I think that, last crossover in the Elseworlds video, I was talking about how I think Batman worked well as this legend of Gotham who's disappeared. And I think he works a lot better as that. I think, they should have just left it at that and maybe just flat out just said, oh yeah, Batwoman is the Paragon. And not even mention, oh, we're gonna go look for Batman, he's the Paragon. I think it would have been better if they didn't tease that at all, rather than doing this weird version. So yeah, I wish we got to see Batman here. Don't get me wrong, Batwoman is cool, but I would have liked to have seen him here, instead of this weird version, but what are you gonna do? We got what we got, and it was kind of interesting to see this. We got to see some Easter eggs in the, in Wayne Manor, but again, I think they should have shown an actual Batman here, or just not teased it at all. But moving on to Lex Luthor, we get to see Lex Luthor in this crossover, and I guess this is my first introduction to this version of Lex Luthor, because I don't watch Supergirl, so I know he's probably shown up a lot on Supergirl. I have not seen Supergirl. I have not seen this version of Lex Luthor, so being introduced to him in this crossover, I have to say, I'm not a fan. I don't really like this version of Lex Luthor. He's really annoying, and you're just kind of there to add tension to the crossover, to some of the crossover episodes, in the second one, he adds tension by stealing the book, and so there's the tension of, oh, we have to, get the book back before he kills all of the Supermen who might be Paragons. And then in the 4th episode, it's, he almost messes up the plan where they're gonna stop the Monitor from going back in time and starting this whole thing. You know, that stuff is just to add tension, just to kind of, you know, draw out the runtime, just to add conflict to these episodes that really didn't have much going on in them. He's just kind of used that way, and so I think that I could have done without him. I think that this would have been a lot better without him. I just didn't really enjoy his portrayal of Lex Luthor that much, so, you know, yeah. Wasn't the biggest fan of him, and I think this crossover definitely could have done without him. But moving on to Nash Wells or Parai, in Flash Season 6, we get a new Wells, Nash Wells, kind of a Indiana Jones meets Harrison Wells kind of thing. Whereas in Flash Season 5, we got Sherlock Wells, Sherlock Holmes meets Harrison Wells. Here we get Indiana Jones meets Harrison Wells. I think he was a cool character in Flash Season 6 so far, and his whole thing, he's trying to find Mar-Novu, and he ends up getting taken by the Anti-Monitor and turned into Parai, and gets put in a very Loki-esque costume, and so he ends up being forced to be his henchman. And there was actually surprisingly like a character arc for him here where he ends up turning on the Anti-Monitor, and he ends up saving the Paragons when the Anti-Monitor destroys Earth-1 and the Legends ship that everybody's on. He saves the Paragons and sends them somewhere outside of time and space. So that was cool that he got that kind of character arc there. But now, I want to move on to talking about Oliver's death, the big thing in this crossover. And I think that it wasn't done all that well. I think the way it worked out, I think was fine. I think, you know, how he died, I think they did treat it as a big moment that was emotional. But it just felt weird how, like, they kill him off at the end of the 1st episode, and then they bring him back using a Lazarus pit, only to die again in the 4th episode. It just felt like, just kill him once and have it done with. Like, they do the whole thing where he becomes a Spectre for the last part, and basically that means he becomes a Jedi and shoots a light beam out of his eyes, and that was a bit too crazy. I think that was a bit much to have him become so powerful and fighting the Anti-Monitor. I think the first death that he had was the perfect death for him. Like, I think they did that so well. It really fits his character insanely well to, you know, sacrifice himself going into a fight that he knows he can't win just to buy others some time to escape. That moment was done so well as the Monitor is, you know, taking all of them away, making them retreat, and he goes against the Monitor. He shoots him with an arrow just to stop him from being able to teleport him out of there, just so he can go up against the demons, whatever they're called, you know, just to go up against them just to save the Earth-38 citizens, you know, just to buy them some time to escape. Again, going into a battle, he knows he's going to lose, and, you know, showing him run up to them, and then cutting to him appearing in the, you know, in the Arrow Cave, dead. I thought that was great, and the only problem is that it's at the end of the 1st episode. Like, that's my only problem with it. If that had been at the end of the 4th episode, if that had been how the 4th episode ended, I would have said that was amazing. They did that well. But the only thing holding me back from saying that death was really good, from me saying that I think he should have died there, was because it was at the end of the first episode. And obviously you don't want Oliver to die at the end of the first episode. But the problem is they bring him back and he becomes Spectre, and again, he goes up against the Anti-Monitor and has all these powers and shoots a light beam out of his eyes and becomes the Avatar or something. It was a bit much. It was crazy. It didn't really fit his character. And he dies to restart the universe. And, again, they treat it as a good moment. They have Barry and Sarah go up there and say goodbye to him. But the whole thing was a bit much.
Have failed this universe.
Whereas having him sacrifice himself, fighting a battle he knows he's going to lose, just to buy others time to escape, that's good. That fits his character. That is, that fits his power level. That has a lot of heart to it, where, that just fits his character so much more. And really the worst thing about this whole thing, the way they handled his death, is because they have him die at the end of the first episode and then come back in the fourth episode, he's not with the rest of the team for most of the crossover. And so you kind of lose a dynamic that's so great about these crossovers, which is seeing Oliver interact with Barry. In the Elseworlds crossover video, I talked about how their relationship is done so well in the Arrowverse and these crossovers. That's one of my favorite things from them, is seeing Oliver and Barry get to interact, get to learn from each other, and get to take what they learn into their own shows. We don't get any of that here because they kill Oliver off in the first episode. And I think that's the only thing that holds this crossover back for me. That's the only thing that I think was that's the big misstep of this crossover, was killing Oliver off in the first episode and having him checked out for most of the crossover. Not getting that interaction between Barry and Oliver. We really only get, one conversation between them. And that's in the first episode. And we don't get anything after that. And so it just sucks, because again, that is something I love from these crossovers, and we don't get any of it here. We get some of it, I guess, in the fourth episode. We get that nice moment that's become that meme where, Oliver Spectre asks Barry if he trusts him, and he says, "with every cell of my body." Which is funny, because, I've seen that meme so much, and I never knew that it was Oliver. Until that moment, I did not think that it was Oliver. I've seen it so many times, and it's somebody with a beard wearing a hood. How did I not know it's Oliver? But I've even thought at times, oh wait, is that Oliver in the meme? But then I've seen the meme, and I'm like, no, that's not Oliver. I would see it, and I'd be like, no, that's not Oliver. But it is Oliver! Oh, that was so crazy. But moving on from me finally understanding a meme that's 2 years old at this point, they really should have handled Oliver's death a lot better. They should have had the exact moment that they have happen at the end of the first episode, move it to the fourth episode. Change the story a bit, change the scenario a bit, and make that same kind of moment happen there. Maybe at the end of the third episode, when Nash Wells teleports everybody to the place outside of time and space, to save everybody from the antimatter wave that's going to destroy everybody. Maybe instead of having Nash Wells save everybody, maybe you have Oliver save everybody. Maybe you have Oliver somehow do something that saves all of them. I don't know. they could have done something cool like that, like the moment at the end of the first episode, just later in the crossover. So yeah, again, I think they could have handled his death a lot better, but with what they did, it was good enough. With this death, sacrificing himself, and restarting the universe, but making it better. You know, changing things around, making it so everybody's on one Earth, you know, combining Supergirl's Earth and Black Lightning's Earth with Earth 1, the Flash and Arrow Earth, combining it all into one so all the heroes are in one place, making crossovers obviously a lot easier, and making some other changes, like with his life, bringing back Moira and Tommy and Quentin. We see he brings Sarah Diggle back, which I thought that was such a nice touch there. I was not expecting that, but that was so cool, having him bring back Sarah Diggle. You know, John Diggle and Lila's daughter that got erased from existence because of Flashpoint. Oliver brings her back and doesn't replace JJ doing that. Like, makes it so JJ is there too. That was cool that he was able to do that. He saves his city. We see, as, you know, in the rest of Arrow Season 8, the next 2 episodes, we see that crime in Star City is basically gone. He makes his city a better place. He does his goal that he always says in the intro of every single episode of Arrow ever. His one goal, to save his city. And he does it here. He sacrifices himself to save his city. When he restarts the universe, he makes it so his city is a better place. And the mission is over. I'm getting into Arrow Season 8 stuff. I'm sorry, but it's just hard to not get into that when I'm talking about Oliver's death here. But, you know, it's cool to see all the changes that he makes to the Arrowverse here, making it a better place, and it's cool to have this whole thing where the universe gets remade, and, you know, because that allows for so many new interesting stories to be told. It really does a complete refresh, reset on the Arrowverse, where you could do a lot of cool stuff now that wasn't really possible before to do. You know, you could introduce so many new characters, so many new stories. You could have so many more characters interact, like just having Black Lightning and Supergirl be on the same Earth as the Flash. That's cool to be able to see all the characters from there who previously were on different Earths and couldn't interact with each other. Now you get to see them be able to interact. It just opens so many new possibilities for the Arrowverse, and I think that's just such a cool idea of restarting the universe, making it so, you know, there's all these new changes that then allow for so many new possibilities of storytelling. But anyway, moving on to the Justice League is formed. That's how the crossover ends. The Flash, Batwoman, Supergirl, Superman, Sarah Lance, Black Lightning, and a few others that I'm blanking on right now. They form the Justice League, and that was cool. That got me really excited for where the Arrowverse could go now. I'm hoping that, what I'm really hoping for is that they make a Justice League show with all of them at some point, because I think that would be really cool. You know, that's something that could easily be done wrong, but if it is done right, it could be amazing, and so I really hope they do that. But even if they don't do that, I hope that they do a lot more crossovers like this. It's sad because, like, I know a lot of these shows are ending now. Like, I know Black Lightning ended. I know Supergirl's ending. I know The Flash is going into its final season. later this year, and just, it's sad to, like, we're at such a great part, we're at such, like, a epic point in the Arrowverse, and now we're ending all these shows where it's like, now we're not, in the next crossover, we're not gonna have a Supergirl episode in it. We're not gonna have a Black Lightning episode in it. We may not have a Flash episode in it, and that's really sad. Because again, we're in this epic point, but we might be losing this really cool stuff. At least we have Superman and Lois. At least we have Superman here, really in the forefront. That's cool. But I hope that even though Flash is ending, he's still going to continue to be, in the Arrowverse. Still continue to appear in these crossovers, still be a main character in it. Even if he doesn't have his own show, like, bring him into another show to have him in there, with Supergirl. Yeah, Supergirl's ending, but I hope they, with the way it ends, she's able to continue to be in the Arrowverse, and they do some kind of Justice League show, with all of them coming together. I think that could be really epic, but we'll have to see what happens next. I'm excited for it, whatever is going to happen. I'm excited. I'm also excited because I'm kind of caught up with the Arrowverse at this point. Like, yeah, I know I have to watch the rest of Flash Season 6 and Season 7, but I'm kind of at the point that the Arrowverse is in now. Like, there's not, there hasn't been another crossover yet. And so, there's not like this big event that I still need to watch. Like, Crisis on Infinite Earths was the last big thing that happened, and since then it's just been the seasons of the shows continuing. So, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next, and I really enjoyed this journey through the Arrowverse. Anyway though, those are my thoughts on the crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Please comment below your thoughts on it, and remember to give this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and maybe check out some of my other videos. And with that said, that's a wrap.